So, I guess as people have been reporting over the past couple of hours, if not the past 7 to 10 hours, I guess Maxwell J. Friedman, MJF, I guess I don't know what's going on, decided to no-show the Fan Fest and book a red-eye flight to New Jersey, not to New Jersey, but Long Island, New York, back home. And this, of course, has upset a lot of people. And we understand that there's frustration with him not getting paid as much as he believes he should be from Tony Khan. And, Tony Khan not willing to do that. But, you have a lot of people also coming out and saying, and Sean Ross Sapp saying, this is not a work, it's real, it's legit. Here's the thing. Let's take a look at this from two perspectives, shall we? Let's look at it from the perspective, easy for me to say, but let's look at it from the perspective that it's a work, alright? This wouldn't be, something that no promotion would be against doing, especially if they want to basically parody, if you will, mock the competition and saying, hey, see, we could do something similar, but we can make it work in our favor as a storyline, as a work shoot storyline. It wouldn't be something that you couldn't put past any promotion, if you will. Especially if that promotion's hearing rumblings that not many people are really going to be, intrigued in watching Double or Nothing, and they're more focused on the pay-per-view that comes afterwards. What better way to get their attention than say, hey, one of the matches that's been built for a long time may not happen. And it's a match of one of the biggest heels in all of wrestling right now. So, if word like that gets out, then people are going to be like, really? That's not going to happen? But I want to see that match. It would be the only reason I'd tune into the pay-per-view. And then they would tune in to see whether or not it would happen. Now, apparently he's not left Las Vegas yet, which means whatever red eye he booked, he did not board. But it doesn't mean he's shown up at the arena just yet or plans to go to the arena. He might still consider doing something like that, right? But here's the reason, though, why it might be a work, too. Like I said, it wouldn't be, nothing new for a promotion to do something like this, to parody and mock the competition for something that legitimately, from a real life perspective, happened. And, use it to their advantage to turn it into a real work shoot storyline. And on top of that, they could also be doing this for one reason. You see, Nobody expects MJF to be world champion just yet, right? What if this is turned into a work shoot style storyline to where he comes out, he has the match with Waldrow, if you will, puts Waldrow over, but then comes out later on before Punk and Page happens and says, by the way, the only reason I decided to come back is I made a demand that got met, and that is, I'm trading in my diamond ring, my Dynamite diamond ring, to be included in this match. In other words, turn Punk and Page into a triple threat three-way dance, which in the end nobody would see it coming, puts MJF over as the new world champion. Nobody would see it coming. You keep the belt on him until he's all out, maybe full gear, and then he drops it to Punk or Page. He drops it to one of them. It would make sense. It would make sense because, let's be honest, you're getting two faces against each other, right? And even though I and others have come up with scenarios of how that match could end, it's a scenario basically where neither man really gets over in the end, or it's going to be protected. So what better way to do that than to kind of do something nobody would see coming? And the best way to do it is to do a work situation to where it looks like one of the people that you've advertised for one of your featured matches is walking out, wanting nothing to do with the company unless he gets what he wants. Then he comes back, does the job to the person he's going in the ring with originally, then comes back out, announces that he's traded in his Dynamite Diamond, or he's made a demand that got met, and now he's part of the match. One, if you're curious of how that's possible, one, nobody would see it coming. And two, even if people don't watch the pay-per-view initially, it'll get them to want to watch the replay later on, or get them to watch it on demand later on when they get the opportunity. That's the whole scenario right there in a nutshell. You want people talking about Double or Nothing? You want them to put focus back on Double or Nothing instead of focusing more on your collab show with New Japan? This is one way to do it. Now again, that's just mere speculation. But when you really get down to it, you don't want to, if you're Tony Khan, if you're Tony Khan, you don't want to basically make either Punk or Page look weak as you're, basically building up one to be the future face of your company, and you're building up the other to be essentially maybe a behind-the-scenes coach, producer, trainer for you in the future. You don't want either man to look bad, especially when you're heading into a pay-per-view in the latter's hometown. So what better way than to probably do something nobody would expect? Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I would keep a close eye on it. I would really keep a close eye on it, because again, nobody's paying attention. Nobody's really giving any true thought and focus on Double or Nothing. So I wouldn't put it past, Tony Khan and AEW to turn this, to make, along with MJF, if there is something they can agree on, to make this into a work, and basically as a work, use it to give MJF the world title at the end of the night when people would least expect it. Because for all people know, it's supposed to be Punk and Page, and it's supposed to be MJF and Wardlow, right? Nobody would see MJF inserting himself, making it a three-way dance, if it was part of a demand to come back. Nobody would see it coming. Like I said, no one would see it coming, mainly because it's not what's scheduled. So what better way, basically, to, not only, I guess, in AEW's mind, mock what happened with WWE in this situation with Sasha and Naomi, but then to take the work situation or work shoot situation and make it into something that blends reality behind the scenes at AEW with storyline, with what you see in the ring on a weekly basis. Like I was saying, what better way to, like I said, and again, you can't put it past any company, than to mock what happened with them in a real life situation, than to incorporate it as a work shoot situation, storyline wise, kind of blend what goes on behind the scenes, at AEW, and what goes on, in the ring as people are watching, if you catch my drift. But, again, this is all dependent on whether or not this is a work or it's not. And if it's not a work, that's not a good thing, but something tells me it might be. But if it's not, well, let's just say for fans, it's a double-edged sword, and it kind of may hurt fans getting a certain boss in AEW. Now, what I mean by it could kind of hurt fans getting a certain boss in AEW if this is legit with what MJF did. If it is legit, here's the thing. One, it hurts his chances to be signed by WWE, because they're not going to want to tolerate bringing in somebody that, is going to probably try to pull something similar to what Sasha and Naomi did. They're not going to want to tolerate that. They're not going to want to associate with somebody like that that's going to want to take his ball, or at least threaten to take his ball and go home, unless he gets what he wants. They're not going to want to have anything to do with someone like that. Impact will want to have nothing to do with someone like that. MLW, they've had history with Max O. They won't have anything to do with him. Nobody, New Japan, nobody will want anything to do with him. Because of what he tried to pull. Here in, with AEW. Now that might get swept under the rug if he comes in and does the job, and that's it. Puts Waldrow over, and that's it. But still, it's not a good look for him. Either way, it's not a good look for him. Period. But it's also not a good look for the potential, of AEW bringing in someone like a Sasha Banks, a Mercedes, if you will. That's a real name. It's not a good look there because, you're always wondering, why WWE is doing this smear campaign on Sasha and Naomi, mostly Sasha. And it's real simple. Because they know that her destination in the eyes of a lot of folks, and Alex, just Alex did a video on this the other day, her destination likely would be AEW. Because it would open a lot of doors for her to compete not just for AEW, but for other places. However, if WWE does this smear campaign on Sasha, basically depicting her as someone you can't depend on, someone that will walk out on you, someone that will, whine and bitch and moan because she's not getting featured the way she should. If they basically do a smear campaign on that and saying, hey, this girl's going to let you down if you don't give her what she wants, out off the bat. Someone like Tony Khan and AEW will look at that, and then notice the comparisons of what's going on with MJF and be like, we don't need that kind of headache again. We don't need that kind of person, on our roster that's going to threaten to take the ball and go home if they don't get what they want. Now, I know some people will say that that's not going to happen with Sasha because she loves wrestling. And look, you have a right to your opinion, and you might be correct. But the truth of the matter is, whether you love wrestling or you understand the differences between pro wrestling and sports entertainment wrestling, and you're willing to work, either way, if you have the attitude of, I'm just not going to show because I'm not getting what I want, I'm not going to be featured prominently the way I want, if you have a history of doing that, or you have a history of an attitude of doing that, hold on. What I'm trying to say is, if you're known to have a history of having an attitude of basically picking up your ball and leaving, leaving everybody up in the air, high and dry, having to scramble as to how to alternate the situation you were originally supposed to be in with something different. And, word gets out that, hey, you're not dependable to other potential, like I say, employers or promoters. Again, whether you love wrestling and you understand the difference between pro wrestling and sports entertainment wrestling, not everybody's going to want to take a chance on you. Not everybody's going to willingly want to bring you in. And look, I get it. People might say, well, the schedule would be attractive to her. She wouldn't have nothing to complain about. That's true. That's true. It's an attractive schedule. But here's the point, though. Sasha is presented in a way, or likes to be presented in a way, to where she wants to be on the prominent, show. She wants to be on the prominent billboard in the eyes of a lot of folks. That she is basically someone that should be in the spotlight on the highest, rated segments, on the highest rated shows, which means even though she might be cool with doing but even though she might be cool doing a rampage here and there, she might be cool with doing a dark elevation every now and then, she'd rather be more featured on Dynamite because she knows more eyes are on that show than the others. And if not given that opportunity, she's not going to want to work. Now, some people might say, well, the women's division is a little bit more, broader than WWE's right now, and she has a lot of people she could work with a lot more, and that's true. And there are 2 titles, not one, singular titles, not one, that she could go after, and that's true. But again, whether you love pro wrestling, overall, and you understand the difference between the two of a pro and sports entertainment, if your current employer that you've walked down on is going to smear you, criticize you, and say, hey, you can't be depended on, because you're not getting what you want, you let people down, how is your potential future employers going to look at you if they're dealing with something similar with someone they thought they could trust, someone that they consider a high main event level act? Do you think they're going to want to deal with that same kind of headache? No. And this is where it hurts. This is where it's going to really hurt as a reality for a lot of Sasha Banks fans. And look, I'm one of them. I love Sasha Banks. I love her. There's no doubt. I would love to see her in AEW go up against Britt Baker. I would love to see her in AEW go against Thunder Rosa. Don't get me wrong about that. But if she's doing the same kind of thing that Maxwell's doing right now, and becoming where he's becoming a headache with his attitude of threatening to no-show, especially in this case a pay-per-view, how do you think they'll feel about bringing in Sasha Banks, knowing she has a history of doing the same thing? They won't like it. They won't. And you can make up all the excuses you want. Because let's be honest, and I say this with all due respect to the likes of JD and Solomonster and a few other, Alvarez and all them, you guys can make up all the excuses as to what's going on. All you want, and say, oh, it's nothing bad, everything we fine, da, 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 da. You can make all the excuses, and I say this with all due love and respect to you guys, because I'm a fan of your work. But let's be honest, the only reason people like you are doing it, and again, I say it with all due love and respect, because I'm a fan of your work, and I'm not trying to be offensive, no offense, but you're only doing it because you're kissing up to Tony Khan. You're kissing up to him because he helped you out of House of Glory one time, that being you, Solomonster, and JD. He helped you guys out, and you're trying to kiss up to him because maybe deep down in your mind, in your hearts, you believe he'll contact you and say, hey, Jason Solomon, hey, JD, would you like a job with AEW? That's what you're hoping for. And the same goes for Alvarez. He's hoping for that call too. And will it happen? Maybe. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I mean, nobody expected Brian Zane of Wrestling with Regret to become a commentator and a commentator and a backstage interviewer, co-respondent, if you will, for Ring of Honor. Before Tony Khan bought it, nobody expected that, but yet, there he was. So anything is possible. But if you guys just, try to negate what's going on, try to sweep it under the rug, it's going to make people realize that you're kissing up more than you normally do. And you can't do that. You got to be unbiased about this situation. You got to be unbiased about it and just be straightforward. Don't try to kiss up and try to sweep it under the rug. Because if you do, it shows you nothing more than AEW suck-ups. And I say that with all due respect. I do. I really do say that with all due respect and love, no offense, but it would show people that that's exactly what you are. That's exactly what you are. So if I'm anybody out there, Alvarez, JD, Solomonster, just Alex, I would just tell the truth. I would be honest, and I would even say that, this doesn't really bode well for the potential of Sasha going there, because Sasha's been known to do the same thing. So you can't just say, oh, well, Sasha going there will be completely different. No. You say that, people will know you're sucking up. And you need to drop the suck up. You need to drop the act in their eyes and be real about this. And that's about it. That's about it. But yeah, if you hope for someone like Sasha Banks, maybe to an extent Naomi, showing up in AEW. Well, Naomi is probably more of a likely chance, but Sasha, no. If she's known to pull the same kind of crap that's currently going on with MJF right now, it doesn't bode well with her. It doesn't bode well with her. And again, if you're JD, you're Solid Monster, you're just Alex, or anybody else, do not avoid that. Don't try to, kind of defend the fact it would be different, because if word gets out, and has already, that she has a history of doing this, or doing what MJ's doing, yeah, Tony Khan might want her, but unless she drops the whole, I'm going to walk out if I don't get what I want attitude, he's not going to want her. Period. But, yeah, if it's not a work, then by extension, it doesn't help, Sasha's cause to want to get there after her contract expires. Because Tony Khan, the last thing he's going to want to deal with is another, is another headache, of somebody having a history of doing this kind of pulling this kind of crap up and threatening to no-show because they're not getting what they want. So, let me know what you guys think. What are your thoughts on this overall? How do you feel about, whether or not this is a work or this is legit? How do you feel about it? Do you think if it's a work, it's going to lead to the shocking ending of the pay-per-view with Maxwell walking out with the world title, if that's what we're probably heading towards? And if it's not a work, do you think it doesn't bode well for, Sasha Banks being in AEW because she has a history of doing something similar? Let me know down below. Comment if you like. Love to hear from each and every one of you. Super chat and super stickers are open during the live chat. Super thanks will be enabled after the premiere. You can check me out at my podcast at BW Rose's Discussion. Check me out at my Teespring store. Also check me out at VENMO at Brian at BW Roses as well. And also check me out at my Patreon at BW Roses. Also check me out at DeviantArt.com /BVW1979, fanfiction.net /Brian.Walmer.1. That's numeral 1. And check me out at Venmo at Brian-Walmer-2 to help support me there. And at Cash App at BW Roses 98. But again, guys, let me know what your thoughts are either way. Love to hear from each and every one of you. And I am out.